The story of the Darksaber is a complex history, from its creation by the first known Mandalorian Jedi to its destruction by Moff Gideon. It was seen as the one symbol that could unite all the Mandalorian clans, but it's only in recent times that it really gained notoriety as the divine right to lead the Mandalorian people. With such characters as Maul, formerly Darth Maul, and Moff Gideon possessing the weapon of the Mandalore, it's no surprise that this symbol of leadership needed to be destroyed. Let me explain. Maul raises the crackling blade and drops it. Vizsla is gone, and the Darksaber is now in the hands of the non-Mandalorian Maul. This is the first time a non-Mandalorian or Aroedi has possessed the blade with the intention of leading the Mandalorian people, not just leading them, but ruling them. Maul is also the first to own the blade who didn't have the interests of the Mandalorian people at heart. To Maul, the Darksaber was just another step toward proving to his former master Darth Sidious that he deserves to be at his right hand again, and it was a tool to exact his vengeance on the one who took his legs and cost him his power as a Sith Lord, Obi-Wan Kenobi. Maul knew the Mandalorians wouldn't accept an outsider as their rightful ruler, so he put in place a puppet leader, Prime Minister Almec. But this was of no real concern to the former Sith Lord, as his grand scheme was finally beginning to come together. As arrogant as Vizsla was, and even though his ideas were not the popular ones, his intentions were to return Mandalore to its warrior traditions. Concerned with the way the Mandalorian people had become soft through their most recent pacifist leader, Wielding Kryze, Vizsla worried that Mandalore had become vulnerable. With the Clone Wars raging on, both the Separatists and the Republic were always looking for new allies in their fight. Being a sovereign world, Mandalore was now exposed to attack from either side. If Mandalore were to be attacked, in the current state they would certainly fall. The Republic and the Mandalorians shared a treaty that had lasted 100 years at this point, but the Republic was always looking for new ways to occupy planets, and Mandalore would be a powerful planet to control. In order to remain sovereign through the Clone Wars and beyond, the Mandalorian people would need a strong defense, and having the Darksaber in hand was Vizsla's symbol of strength to lead them to the next era of unification. And before I go on, here's a really quick shameless plug from our sponsor, me. Hit the subscribe button, turn on notifications, and give the video a big stupid thumbs up. It really does help get my message across the Star Wars fandom. If you subscribe and like the video, it will give you a sense of happiness and euphoria, unlike anything you've experienced. It'll make your family love you more, and your water will turn to beer. Yeah, beer. And the type of beer you get is up to the will of the Force. If you get O'Doul suddenly shooting out of your shower, not my fault. If you don't subscribe and like, I'm sure your family will still like you just fine, and water will be good enough. But it's better to be safe and subscribe anyway. With the death of Vizsla came an unprecedented time for the Darksaber, or rather an alteration of its purpose. Before Maul, the Darksaber had been in the possession of House Vizsla for generations, but there was only one Vizsla who owned the Darksaber and led the entirety of the Mandalorian people, and that was the Darksaber's creator, Vizsla, the first known Mandalorian Jedi. After Vizsla's death, the Darksaber was kept in the Jedi Temple, as was custom. When a Jedi would fall, their lightsaber, or the Darksaber in this case, was either taken to a Jedi Temple and stored, or kept safe by the Jedi closest to the fallen. Lightsabers weren't really an heirloom to be passed down until Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber was passed down to Luke Skywalker, but then again, there aren't many accounts of Jedi having children to pass them down to. But the Darksaber had become a different kind of lightsaber. Just as Mandalorian armor was passed down from generation to generation, once members of the Vizsla name freed the Darksaber from the confines of the Jedi Temple, the Darksaber held the same tradition as the armor. The Darksaber changed hands quite a few times to successors of the Vizsla name. However, since the Clone Wars, it has bounced around to non-Vizslas and even non-Mandalorians by means of Darth Maul, or Maul, Sabine Wren, Bo-Katan Kryze, and Moff Gideon as well. By the end of The Mandalorian Season 2 and into The Mandalorian Season 3, the Darksaber resided with our Mandalorian hero Din Djarin. Since the Clone Wars, the Darksaber had become the symbol of leadership for centuries, but now it's gone. The decision to destroy the Darksaber was the correct decision on the part of the writers of the Mandalorian series, and there are many reasons why destroying the Darksaber was necessary. The first reason is the obvious. Just because someone may be strong enough to take the Darksaber from its current owner, it doesn't make them fit to lead an entire planet or nation of people. There is so much more that goes into this kind of role than whether they can fight or not. How are they with foreign policies? Do they know anything about finance or social systems? Are they good tacticians, and do they listen to advisors? These are all things that a leader should be proficient at, not just strength. The second reason kind of goes hand in hand with the first. As long as the Darksaber exists, someone will challenge the owner. And again, just because they have physical strength, it shouldn't be the sole reason for leading. But I suppose that's how usurpation goes. It goes on in our own world, from the highest seats of power to the lowest in the street wars. But Mandalorians should evolve past that with their sense of honor and their creed. If they are in fact Mandalorian, one of the tenets is to follow the Mandalore, not usurp their title. And the current structure shows the Mandalorians are evolving past that sort of behavior. In the future, who knows? Then there's the karma factor. If you believe in that sort of thing, look at all the bad that's come with the Darksaber since Maul decided to take it. Mandalorians have become split into even more factions that caused yet another Mandalorian civil war. Then, Mandalore became occupied by the Republic and later the Empire. Mandalore was then decimated by the Empire, and the Mandalorian people almost completely wiped out. A lot of bad has happened in such a short time. The root cause? The Darksaber. Some say it was cursed. Whether it's a curse or a karma, there's no real difference in this case. The Darksaber was never intended to be the symbol of leadership upon its creation. Even after it was removed from the Jedi Temple, it was only passed down from Vizsla to Vizsla, not Mandalorian leader to the next in line. It was only used to lead House Vizsla and Death Watch, not to lead the entire Mandalorian people. In all instances, if things had gone as they had been, Paz Vizsla would have been the rightful owner of the Darksaber anyway, and we all know what happened to him. With his death, the Darksaber should have either been locked away or destroyed with the Kyber crystal given to a Jedi for safekeeping, if the Darksaber's history had continued on the path of its past history. Even though House Vizsla held the Darksaber for about 1,009 years, only one of those carrying the Vizsla name was the rightful leader of Mandalorian people, Tar Vizsla. That means no other Vizsla had ruled with the Darksaber over the Mandalorian people after him. However, Vizslas had always been in charge of Death Watch, the political organization that believed Mandalorians should return to their roots as warriors, not pacifists. Even one of the most notable Death Watch leaders, Tor Vizsla, the adversary to Jango Fett, wasn't the leader of the Mandalorian people. It was Jaster Muriel, then Jango Fett, neither of which possessing the Darksaber. Since Tar Vizsla's death, Maul had been the only one to use the Darksaber as a symbol of divine right. It's only been for the last 32 Star Wars years that it has been used as a symbol of power and authority over the entirety of the Mandalorian people, a short period when you factor in the age of the weapon. But this isn't the sole reason the Darksaber could be considered obsolete. Since Tar Vizsla's death, House Vizsla and really all of Mandalore has had a distrust of the Jedi Order and all Force users, even waging war on them from a time or two. When we get to pre-Vizsla, he tells Obi-Wan Kenobi, "This lightsaber was stolen from your Jedi temple by my ancestors during the fall of the Old Republic. Since then, many Jedi have died upon its blade. Prepare yourself to join them." The very opposite the Darksaber was created for. I mean, why would a Jedi, a good Jedi who never turned to the dark side, create a weapon to use against his own order? Even a millennia later, and especially when he turned it in after he no longer saw a use for it. So this means the blade has not been used as it was intended for centuries. In fact, it has been killing members of the Jedi Order, the same order it was created through. Let's move on to the Mandalorian series for a moment. Din Djarin gained possession of the Darksaber through beating Moff Gideon in single combat. During the journey to get to the Imperial leader, Din Djarin has created a clan of two, Clan Mudhorn. In that clan is Din Djarin and Grogu, a Force-sensitive Jedi in training before the fall of the Jedi Order. They developed a special bond. Such a special bond that Mando encountered two others of the Jedi Order in looking to train Grogu. Ahsoka Tano, who was formerly a Jedi Padawan under Anakin Skywalker's tutelage, and Luke Skywalker, a Jedi and son of Anakin Skywalker, and Padawan to Yoda and Obi-Wan Kenobi. Both encounters were favorable to the Mandalorian bounty hunter, with the latter even taking Grogu on as an apprentice and swearing his life to protect the 50-year-old man-toddler. What does this have to do with the Darksaber, though? Everything. The Mandalorian is moving in a direction that may mend the wounds between Jedi and Mandalorians, with Din Djarin front and center and showing compassion for the Force-sensitive Grogu and allowing his foundling to go off with a Jedi to be trained, with the Darksaber being created by a Jedi, then used as a weapon to kill Jedi by Mandalorians. The status symbol will not be favorable for the diplomacy of the two groups. It is actually a slap in the face for the Jedi for the Mandalorian to use it as a symbol of authority after using it to kill its members. Made by a Jedi to use for peace and protection, then taken by those wanting power and used to kill members of the very order that dedicate themselves as defenders of the peace. Ironic. But is that reason enough to destroy the blade? Why not just hand it off to the new generation of Jedi to keep safe as a relic of their order? Tried, tested, stolen from the Jedi Temple vault. Not gonna work. I'd also say any Jedi that knows what the Darksaber is would not want it in their collection. I know I wouldn't want to hold on to a weapon that killed many of my friends and colleagues. Let's also not forget the fact that any rogue Mandalorian would go after the blade and kill its current owner to obtain it. But is this enough to destroy the blade? Maybe, but not entirely. My next point is its actual use. Not only was it used to kill Jedi, but it was also used to kill Mandalorians as well. The very people they claim to lead with the blade was being used to murder those they consider their subjects. It was divisive, to say the least. It caused factions to split from Mandalorian society and create their own rules, hence the creation of Death Watch. No, I'm not saying Death Watch was formed because of the Darksaber, but the Darksaber was used as the symbol of the organization's leader. Not to mention it was only passed down in succession to one house, House Vizsla. The blade was front and center during more wars with Mandalorians than peace by uniting the Mandalorian people under one leader. But is this enough to destroy the Darksaber? Sure is, but there's still more. Let's look at those who have possessed the blade. Vizsla, a great Jedi and leader of the Mandalorian people, but he didn't use the Darksaber as his symbol of rule. It was his character that united the Mandalorian people. Again, if the children's stories are to be believed, it wasn't until centuries later that someone claimed it as their symbol of divine right, Maul, and Maul wasn't even a Mandalorian. But how many Mandalorians honored him as the leader of the Mandalorian people just because he had the Darksaber? Other than his super commandos who were formerly Death Watch members, none. In fact, he placed Prime Minister Almec as the figurehead leader of Mandalore, so there wouldn't be an uprising against a non-Mandalorian leader. Let's not forget the Mandalorian people recognized Almec as leader due to his status under the former leader, Duchess Satine Kryze. Almec was the next in line of succession had anything happened to her. It was a smart choice on Maul's part, but Almec was recognized as a leader by the Mandalorian people without carrying the Darksaber. Okay, moving on. Sabine Wren also possessed the Darksaber. She didn't even consider herself the leader of the Mandalorian people, nor did she want it. In fact, she gave it to her own mother and was betrayed by her. Eventually, she gave it to Bo-Katan Kryze, who actually was seen as the leader of the Mandalorian people for a short time, until the Empire came in and took the Darksaber. Which leads me to Moff Gideon. Was he seen as the Mandalorian leader just because he had the Darksaber? Nope. In fact, Djarin didn't even know who he was. Had Gideon been the undisputed leader, Djarin's organization, the Children of the Watch, would have told him about it. Or at least the Darksaber's divine power. Djarin didn't even know what the Darksaber was, and he's in his 40s, well old enough to have heard other Mandalorians discuss it. And that brings me to Djarin. Does anyone see him as the undisputed Mandalore? Nope. In fact, he was kicked out of his own covert, the Children of the Watch, for removing his helmet. Bo-Katan Kryze also didn't recognize him as her leader. Then there is Bo-Katan Kryze, and this time it's different. Yes, she used the Darksaber to unite some of the Mandalorian clans, but it was ultimately her merit that the Mandalorians continued to follow her. So, when you boil it down to its simplest terms, only 2 Mandalorians that we know of have been recognized as the divine leader of Mandalore while holding the blade. Vizsla, and some 1,000 years later, Bo-Katan Kryze. The Darksaber has never been recognized as a symbol of divine right, only by a few outside House Vizsla. So with its creation by a Jedi, then its use to kill members of that same order, the deaths of many Mandalorians by those who have wielded it, and the fact it has not been recognized by all Mandalorian society, it really has no place in existence anymore. It has divided more than it has unified, and not just with the Mandalorian people, but throughout the galaxy. The Darksaber needed to be destroyed, not wielded. There is one Mandalorian artifact that could be seen as a symbol of divine leadership, and that's the Mask of Mandalore, and I'll get into that in another video. But what do you think? Should the Darksaber have continued to be the symbol of divine right throughout Mandalorian culture, or was it a good decision to destroy it? Leave a comment below. I'd love to hear from you. I do try to read as many comments as I can, and I respond to as many as time will permit. So if you're looking for a Star Wars YouTube channel who engages with their viewers, I'm that guy. And before you go, here's another really quick word from our sponsor, me. If you're new here or just haven't committed yet, hit that subscribe button, give the video a big-ass thumbs up. Doing so helps my channel more than you know, and it'll give you a sense of calm and happiness unlike anything you've experienced in the Star Wars fandom. Warning, subscribing to this channel will not make your family love you more. Unless you experience that happiness mentioned, then your family will see a change in you and be more willing to let you collect Star Wars stuff. Subscribing will also not turn your water to beer, unless somehow this channel is the key ingredient to making your personal beer in your personal microbrewery. But maybe it will help due to the happiness factor. But just in case, subscribe anyway. Thank you all for hanging out with me today. Until the next video, this is Gerald, a Star Wars fanatic, wishing you all great health, happiness, and peace. Thank you all for watching, and remember, this is the way, and positivity in the Star Wars community should be the only way.